There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. How did assignment 2 go?
Pretty good.
Yeah? Not too bad? A little bit of JavaScript, yeah? Cool. Test next week. Dun, dun, dun.
How big?
Midterm sized. So basically, I've kind of laid it out as a 2-hour test, but I'm going to give you like the 3 hours to write it in. So you're welcome. So you'll have a little bit of extra time to work on it. You should have a good long chance to give all of the questions due consideration. So I'd like to do a little bit of review today, but I don't want to spend the whole class on review today because we have to get on, we have to keep moving. So it shouldn't be any secret what the testable material is for this test. We are talking all of the module content on Canvas up to, I can draw a line for you in the JavaScript module documents. Let me just log in here.
Of the ADAX.
Just give me a moment. So, taking a look at Module 2 JavaScript. Yeah, yep, right up to the end of section 6, which gives you, right up to the end of section 5. Section 6 here is listed as optional. So, yeah. Although I don't really know that it should be optional, and it won't be optional in future offerings of the course, here it is optional. So, most particularly, the testable content goes up to and includes click events, other sorts of events, timing events, and operations on forms. Does that make sense? Okay? So, one of the differences between this course and Java, for this test, you will be permitted a memory aid of your own design. You will be permitted one 8.5 by 11 cheat sheet / crib sheet. Alright? So, double-sided. The only thing you're not allowed to put on it is more paper. So no sticky notes, please. Alright? Yes?
Is the unit of measurement for 8.5 by 11 specified?
Inches.
There.
Not feet, inches, yes.
Okay.
That's a good try, though. But of course, you know, the actual size of the paper is not as big a constraint as you might think, given modern computerization and being able to print things in really tiny font. I also really, I'm not particular about you bringing a magnifying glass in. If you want to bring a magnifying glass, feel free. However, I have some words of warning, some words of caution, and some words of wisdom for you. The cheat sheet, the reason that I allow it, and actually I rather like the cheat sheet. The reason I like it is that the production of the cheat sheet is the best studying you will do for the test, right? So ideally, this is how a cheat sheet works, right? You study the material, you take the information in, right? You categorize, process it down into something like point form notes, right? Some sort of summarized text, right? The summary goes on your cheat sheet. It's enough of a summary to be able to jog your memory to remember the full text, right? So the cheat sheet is not a replacement for your memory. It is to work in tandem with the inbuilt memory capacity, right? Ideally. Of course, there are other things that it's always useful to put on your cheat sheet. Code examples from class is one thing that you can put on there. Examples of syntax, right? All these sorts of things. However, understand that this does change the nature of the test itself. Because you can just, put blocks of code on a piece of paper and bring it into the test. It's not really useful for me to test you on, do you remember how a variable is declared, right? Those sorts of straight memorization questions will be largely absent from this test. So what am I asking you about? I'm asking you about understanding and application, right?
So
Pardon me.
it's not going to be about writing syntax? It's just going to be more trivial questions?
Oh, if you think that they're trivial.
Well, I don't know how to put it.
That's fair, that's fair. No, understanding questions, right? So it's not so much, do you understand how to declare a variable? It's, do you understand the differences between the different ways of declaring variables and what they're used for?
Oh, so it's just going to be more like standard test affair, define what this means, define the difference between these two and all that.
See, here's the thing though, right? Definition questions are still just straight memorization work. It's got to be a level above that, right? So you need to be able, for example, I propose a novel situation, and you tell me how this or that applies to it, right? For example, here is some code. Tell me how it runs. What is the output of this code, right? One type of question that I particularly like for this level is, here's a big block of code, spot the syntax errors, right? Syntax errors, type errors, errors of any kind, right? This is more the flavor. The flavor of this test is different from the flavor of the Java test, right? So, in some senses, a test like this serves better people with poorer memories, but a better understanding of the material. So yes, but back to cheat sheets. So, making the cheat sheet itself is the best studying that you'll do, because the process, like a very, very effective study habit, is to take lots of information and summarize it. Yes?
side, or can we do it front to back?
Both sides.
Yes.
Both sides are permitted. So, there are a couple of things that you can do to shoot yourself in the foot. Sorry, yes?
I was also going to ask, is it allowed to be typed, or does it have to be handwritten?
It's allowed to be typed. Important question. So, what was I saying? Something about cheat sheets.
Shooting yourself in the foot?
Oh yes. So there are various ways to shoot yourself in the foot. The first and most obvious, which I don't think I have to warn too heavily against with this group, if you're getting the chatbot to do it for you, you're missing out on the best opportunity to study that you will have. So please use your own brain to process it, right? This also applies to, oh, you know, my friend made a cheat sheet and I'm just going to use his or her cheat sheet, right? Again, if you're not summarizing the information yourself, you're not studying, right? Now, I think it's a very good thing if, you know, say there's a group of 3 of you that are all like, ooh, we're gonna work on our cheat sheets together. The ideal way to do that, everyone goes off into their corner, makes their cheat sheet independently, and you all come together at the end and pick through each other's cheat sheets to see, ooh, I missed that, ooh, I missed that, I'm gonna put that on, right? Just to check to see, you know, if there are gaps in the documents that you guys have prepared, right? That's a reasonable way to do it. Comments on studying generally. The best way to study is the ideal way to study is the same as the way that you would practice an instrument.
What, 30 minutes a day can you tell us about?
The 30 minutes a day thing I told you about, yeah, 30 minutes. If you have a test coming up, maybe you want to increase that a little bit, right? But for studying for a test particularly, it's very, 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 very important that however you're studying, you're integrating recall into your studying. That is, you're not just reading the notes, you're not even just summarizing the notes, and certainly, hopefully, you're practicing some of the practice problems, but actually the practice problems can serve as the recall. As long as you do those, you sort of take your cheat sheet and you put it to one side. The point of a recall exercise is to see how much of the stuff you remember and to try to force your brain to remember it, right? Remember, like, you should think of the brain as being a thing with 2 paths, right? You have an inflow and an outflow. You can practice the inflow all you want, but if you haven't practiced any outflow, you can pack your brain with all of the information you care to, but if it can't come out of the brain again, it's useless to you, right? You have to practice that pathway as well. So integrate recall into your study routine. Ideally, if you're doing like a 30-minute session, first 5-10 minutes, make that a recall exercise. It can be as simple as I'm going to write down all of the things I remember from yesterday's study session. This is the way that you activate your long-term memory instead of your short-term memory. Does that make sense? Good. Getting over like a sinus thing is awful. Yeah. Any questions? All right. List of topics. Anybody think I'm missing anything? Anybody have any questions about any of those? Architecture. Yeah. You need to have some knowledge of client-server architecture here. You will gain a lot more knowledge of client-server architecture when you take server-side programming, as you might expect, right? But yeah. Does anybody, would anybody like me to tell them what is meant by any of those terms? Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. You have exactly 1 week until the test. So, study. You still have enough time to do some effective studying before the test next week. Please, please, please do not leave all of your studying until Monday of next week. Okay? Oh, and also please do not leave all of your studying until 2 a.m. the day of the test. That's also a recipe for disaster. But sir, I get all of my good work done at 2 a.m. It's like, yeah, maybe. But, you know, as much as our modern, you know, sort of photon bombardment society might lead you to believe otherwise, we are still diurnal animals, and it is still most effective to sleep at night and do work during the day. But enough of me sounding like everybody's dad.
I mean, you are a dad.
I am a dad, but I'm not dad to the world, you know? Although, man, sometimes I have my moments. All right, would you like a dad story?
Sure.
All right. So the Royal Botanical Gardens, right, which is down that way. Actually down that way. The grandparents get us like a season's pass to the Royal Botanical Gardens, and my wife takes the kids a lot. The kids are like not school age yet, so they have, you know, not much to do on a weekday, and they kind of bum around and do some fun stuff, you know. Try to do a fun thing once a week type thing. So the one time I'm with them, they have a turtle tank, right, with a turtle in it. My kids name him Mr. Turtle, although I think the turtle's proper name is Pedro. Oh well. But there's this other family there, like a mom and 2 boys, and like the one boy is like tapping on the glass, and I cannot help myself. I say, hey, don't tap on the glass. How would you like it if somebody tapped on your glass? With the mother right there, and the mother's like, how dare you talk to my children? She didn't say that, but that's what she was thinking, and that was the look on her face. But I don't care. There's 1 fewer deaf turtle in the world because I talk to somebody else's children. So there you go. That's the sort of father I am. Anyway. So let's do some JavaScript. So we are now entering module 3. Let's see. Did I make that module visible?
Yeah, you made it visible.
Nice. Cool. Awesome. So,
And drawing images? Yeah.
drawing images. Yes.
That one's visible.
So, I will try throughout this unit to try to keep things. I'm going to try to keep JavaScript itself in focus while we're talking about this, but essentially, the thing that's going to happen once we get this unit under our belts, let's see, can I actually get the projector working? That would be nice. Zap! Oh wait, I missed zap! There we go. It's not the screen, it's the projector. So, assignment 4 is make a small video game, right? In order to make a small video game, you will need to know how to work with and manipulate images. This is the point in this course where things, so you have Java, you have JavaScript, and they're kind of going along, right, in their separate tracks. In the middle of these courses, they kind of come together, they kiss, and then they go apart again for the exams. This is the point of that intersection, right? You know JavaFX, right? We're going to use the same engine that underlies it within web pages to do stuff using JavaScript now, and you're going to see that, hopefully you'll see that it's actually a little bit nicer and cleaner to do this in JavaScript than it is in Java. Java's not really an ideal engine for this type of thing. So, we will discuss scaled vector graphics, SVG. From a top-level perspective, scaled vector graphics look a lot like HTML with a bunch of interesting special tags, right? So SVG is an XML-based format. Can anybody tell me what XML means? What does it stand for?
XMLV or XML?
Just XML. What does that stand for? Are you looking it up? Don't look it up.
No, I'm just trying to see what it is used for. I've seen the term thrown around, but I don't really know what it is.
So, XML is the extensible markup language. Many file formats are based on this sort of this format underlying all of these formats, which is called XML. When we say something is XML based, yes.
Wait, hold on. How come it isn't called the EML then it's just
X is a cooler letter. XML. It's more extreme. So HTML is based on XML. SVG graphics are based on XML. If you take any Microsoft Office document, change the file extension to .zip, unzip it, and take a look at the files inside, you will see that Microsoft Office documents are also XML based. So, it's going to feel very similarly, it's going to feel very similar to HTML at the end of the day. So, but in order to explore this topic a little bit, let's explore the difference between vector graphics and raster graphics. Does anybody already know the difference? Has anybody ever heard the term raster graphics before? Have you ever heard the term vector graphics before? Right. Anybody a fan of arcade cabinets from the 1980s? Yeah?
Kind of.
Let me show you a couple of things. So, there are like a number of like video games that really exemplify this, but like my favorite example of this is a game called Tempest, which was an Atari game. You guys know that one? Maybe not? Probably not. Let me show you. YouTube.com. Very good. We're going to get ads, I know it. Let's see here. Tempest arcade game. This is it. That's a good one. All right. So this is the game Tempest. Is my light switch not working? My light switch isn't working. I gotta file a maintenance ticket about that. The light isn't working. I can't dim the lights. Weird. Well, so it goes. Sorry about that. I would dim the lights for you, but I can't. So, this is an example of vector graphics. So, the thing that makes it vector graphics is that each of the lines here is represented essentially by a mathematical formula, right? So, in order to draw a line segment from here to here, you have a point here in space, you have a point there in space, and you draw a line between them. At the time, in the 1980s, this was sort of this was all the biz in the arcade cabinets of the day. These were the best looking games, right?
You all use Spectre for it?
Many of them did. The other thing is, like, this is a bit easier to translate into custom hardware, right? And you have to understand that, like, back in this day, we're kind of talking about, like, the transition period between a video game being like a hardware artifact and being a software artifact. Like, for example, you know all of those old Pong machines, like the home Pong console, right? Those didn't really have software in them. They were just chips, right? So, so this is kind of like, you're kind of starting to get to the transition point. Let me show you what the home console version of this game looked like. For the Atari 2600. This isn't really, let's see, Atari 2600, Tempest. Give me, yeah, there you go. Ta-da! So this is the same game, right? This is the same game, but this is the home console version. Right? Now, I ask you, which of the two of those looks better to play? The first one or the second one? This one only has one level, and this is it. Right? So, let me ask you another question. Is it any surprise that if you were a gamer of the 1980s, you found yourself in arcades most of the time, right? The home console versions of things generally sucked. So this is using a graphic scheme called raster. Raster basically means pixels, right?
Well, vector is just clean 2D.
Well, vector, not quite, right? One of the interesting things about the Tempest that I showed you previously, that game simulated 3D effects, right? This thing, it's hard to even tell what's going on, right? So the interesting thing about this, eventually raster graphics win out, right? Eventually you get games like Pac-Man, which are raster-based, which are good. Pixels have to get sufficiently small. You need more processing power for them than vector. But eventually you get something like, what's the name of the game? Space Harrier. You get this thing, Space Harrier. So this game won Game of the Year, I think, in like '87. And the way that it won Game of the Year.
Was mixing vector raster?
Yeah, well, no, it's not mixing vector and raster. What it had, the arcade version at least, it had a dedicated code processor that allowed you to take raster graphics and smoothly stretch them. And thus this game became like, oh my goodness. Like this was like the best looking game that had ever come out when it came out. I mean, look at that dragon. Look at that dragon. You know? But yeah, like prior to this, what had generally happened is like you would have the image stored in memory at several distinct sizes, and you'd like bounce between those to try to simulate a 3D effect. An example of this would be Namco's pole position. This is kind of like where things were previous to that. This was like the best you could get for 3D effects in raster for a period of time. But you see how like the signs are like at a certain size and then they pop in, right? And that's kind of like, yeah. So, do you feel you understand the difference between vector and raster graphics? Good. We will be working with a vector graphics system. It's embedded in HTML. It's many of the same things that you've been doing in JavaFX, in fact, all of the same things you've been doing in JavaFX will transfer smoothly here. So, could everybody please open up their code editor of choice?
I already have mine open.
Good job. So, we will start by making a simple little HTML page. I'm just gonna put it in a folder.
We have that in a folder?
No, it doesn't have to go in a folder, or any particular folder. Please call it index.html.
Can I call it index 1?
Whatever you like. As long as you don't call it late for supper.
What?
Have you never heard that one before? You can call me anything but late for dinner?
No, I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
Ah, well there you go. My gift to you. Next time anyone says, can I call you X? You can say, you can call me anything but late for dinner. So, good. Sorry. So, SVG. SVG graphics are contained within a canvas in the same way that they are in JavaScript. In our case, in HTML, we create an SVG graphics pane in the following manner. Open up an SVG tag, close it, everything contained within is SVG. This allows you to use SVG elements within this pane. They're not regular HTML elements. You couldn't take these things and use them outside of the pane, only inside of the pane. So, the problem, of course, similarly to divs, it doesn't have a size unless you give it a size. So, or its size is very small. So let's add a little style element in the head. I know you're not supposed to put a style block in, I'm going to do it anyway. Because I'm a bad boy who doesn't play by the rules. That's not true. And then width, let's make that 600 pixels. Height, let's make that 600 pixels. Very good. Ta-da! Our canvas. Everybody following along so far? Very good. Question?
I found that it actually does have a size on its own without specifying.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
What's its size?
I don't know for sure. I can't tell, but if you get rid of the width and height, it'll show a border.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it does have defaults. Alright. So it goes. You probably want it bigger than that. So, we can use CSS to an extent to modify the properties of SVG elements. The other thing we can do with SVG elements, we can apply events to them in the same way that we apply events to regular HTML elements. So, let us draw a square. To draw a square in SVG, you create a rect element. We then give it properties, attributes, to set width, height, etc. Now, width and height we're going to set through attributes, not through CSS properties. And it's useful to look them up, because they're a little bit different from what you would expect them to be. So, for width and height, we just have width and height, easy enough. Width is, 50, height is 100. We then have x and y, which will position it in space. Let's position it at 50-50. And let's see what this gives us.
How do we do that thing where you put it inside the browser?
Oh, I hold the Windows key and press one of the arrow keys, and that snaps it to the one side. So, let me ask you a question. Is that easier or harder than in Java? Significantly easier, eh? One thing though. SVG is quite a bit more exacting when it comes to syntax. You don't have as much wiggle room. The rect element is a self-closing element. In HTML, most of the time you get away without having to provide that closing slash, right? But here, that's required, otherwise you'll screw up the syntax. So if I duplicate the rectangle, maybe put another one at 150 and another one at 250, right? If I render that, you can see I get 3. Very good. But if I start leaving these guys out, you'll see it only renders the first one. Basically, it runs into a syntax error at the end of the first one because it doesn't have the closing slash, and then it just fails to render the rest of the SVG file. So you have to be a little bit more precise about your syntax when working with SVG. It's not the end of the world. Make sense? Any questions? Very good. So, if we recall, there are two colors that, or two color options that apply to objects of this type in JavaFX. We have stroke and we have line, right? We have the same thing here because, again, this is the same underlying engine. Here, stroke, and here, fill. There we go. A red outline with a fill of Alice blue. Again, quite a bit simpler. Now, for these colors, you are permitted to use the full suite of CSS's predefined colors. You can also define them yourself using RBG values, all of the usual ways of doing things. Make sense? Good. Any questions? Okay. So, let's go through a few more basic shapes. As you might imagine, the line object is specified by 2 points in two-dimensional Cartesian space. This is a Cartesian grid system, by the way. They don't have a fill color because they have no volume. So, I'm drawing a line from 5200 to 55300. Because these are HTML-ish attributes, XML attributes, the ordering in which you provide them does not matter in the slightest. You can group the coordinates together if you wish. It doesn't really matter. Did I save it? Save. Yes.
I think the syntax is x1, y1, and x2, y2.
No, I'm getting something. I think he's doing it right.
Yeah, I just didn't have it. It needs a color. The default color was white, I guess, or none. That works. Is anybody having any trouble with this?
Nope.
Anybody need me to take a look?
Nope.
Okay.
So I got one rectangle to show up, but when I added these two in the line, it stopped showing up.
Go back to your source code. So I can explain that error. So in XML, the space character is used to determine where the stop of the property is. So it was thinking, right?
So it thought that this was part of this.
Yeah, it thought that you were assigning blue slash
Yeah,
to
blue slash arrow to
stroke. Yeah,
That makes sense. Thank you.
there you go.
We have another.
Oh, yes.
So after adding the line,
Yeah, you have the same problem. The space right there. Any mods? We're good? So the interesting thing about this is that these are properties which can be modified in JavaScript, right? So, for example, I can write a loop, or not a loop, I can write a timing event that takes one of these and modifies the property over time, thus producing animation, right? So, let's do a few more basic shapes before we get there, though. One that we're kind of missing at the moment is circles. These are called circle. Haha. If you want an oval, that's called ellipse. So circles have the properties center x, center y, and, can you guess it? What's the other property that defines the geometry of a circle?
Radius.
Very good. Radius is just r, if I recall. Yes. So, let's make that 300, 300, and 50. And there you have a circle. Very good. Wonderful, in fact. So, we also have ellipses. One or two L's. I think it's one. Two. Good thing I looked it up. So in addition to having a center x and a center y, essentially you have a width and a height as well specified for an ellipse. Yeah, 400, cy is 300. Yeah, radius x and radius y, which is not how these things are defined mathematically. SVG. I'm sure there's a reason they do it this way. There you go.
Why does it look funny like that?
I mean, I can have those not intersect.
Oh no, I'm just saying it looks funny like that.
Yeah. Boop. There we go. So it makes a better demonstration if they're not intersecting. So you guys know the mathematical definition of an ellipse?
An oval.
Well, that's not the mathematical definition. So, an ellipse is defined by 2 center points and 1 radius. So, if you take 2 points in space, you get an ellipse around them, which is defined by the distance, the sum of the distance from both points. If that's the ellipse represents the track through which that's constant. right? So if, you know, if this is x and this is y, then this line represents the equation x plus y is equal to some constant r, right? Which is interesting. Ellipses are an interesting geometrical feature because it also means that this, like if you draw a tangent line, right? If you draw a line tangent to the external, you know, a line which is tangent, the angle here is always equal to the angle there, right? The angle of incidence from one center point is always equal to the angle of incidence from the other center point. This means that sound is reflected perfectly from this point to this point, which means that the rooms that are built from ovals have interesting acoustic properties. You know our dear friends to the south, the Americans, right? One of their official state buildings is famous for having an office which it has the name of this particular geometric feature. They didn't call it the elliptical office. They called it the oval office. I guess that rolled off the tongue a bit better. But the reason that the Americans designed their oval office as an oval was that you can hear everything that's said in it from every point in the room. So that's the reason for that. It's, in theory, it's supposed to be like a transparency thing, I guess. But, you know, basically, if it's a meeting room for people to have important government meetings, if the shape of the room is an ellipse, then there's no corner that you can whisper in, basically. Which, you know, I guess that's an admirable effort at trying to enforce transparency through the geometry of room design, but yeah, you know. Did it work? Time will tell. Anyway, I just thought that was that's one of my favorite little asides on geometry. Anyway, so the way that SVG graphics does ellipses is wrong. It's just wrong. But you know, you still have to use them. So there's like conceptually no such thing as like an X radius and a Y radius. That's not what the word radius means, you know? So it goes. So, we now have almost, like we have a good set of basic shapes that we could do stuff with now. However, there are some more advanced shapes that a lot of these are also possible inside of JavaFX, but you know, they're kind of like a bit too complicated for that system, where here we can handle the complexity a little bit more easily. Let me show you polylines. So a polyline, anybody care to guess what a polyline is? Yeah?
Line with multiple points.
Yes. It's a line composed of multiple segments. So, where is it? It's a little higher. There we go. So, with a polyline, you have a points attribute, which takes a comma-separated list of x, y positions. Polylines do have a fill property. The region inside of a polyline is a basically you close the geometric figure by drawing a line from the start point to the end point and considering anything inside of that to be interior space. Let's make this green. Stroke equals green. And let's do from 200, 200 to 300, 200 to 200, 300 to 300, 300. See what that looks like. Aha! You can see its stroke color is, or its fill color is currently black. You can set that to something else. And you can see that I've made a nice little hourglass shape with a zigzaggy line. Pretty cool, right? Not bad?
Oh, that's odd. Mine's acting up a bit. It's just a line.
Let me take a look. Ah, yes. Let me show you the list of points. What you've done is you have a point here, here, and here, and it is actually doing what you told it to.
What do I need? 0, 0?
Let me show you my my list of points again.
Oh,
So it's a little confusing to work with because, you know, these are pairs of points. If you're going to do anything fancy, I might not even recommend doing things this way, you know, but so it goes. Good. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to introduce assignment 3, then we'll take a break, and then we'll do animation. Question?
I kind of got the hourglass shape. I can't tell if there's supposed to be a line
missing?
it all off.
So the way that this is currently done, there's like one side open. I've drawn a Z shape, but
there's 2 sides open actually.
well, yeah, this is only true because it crosses itself, right? So yeah, one side is left off. This is to kind of demonstrate that this figure, when you're like drawing the interior volume for fill, interior area, volume is 3-dimensional. It just auto completes your figure.
It connects from the last point to the first one, right?
Right. You can put that line in yourself, or you want to see what. Here's the trick. Here's the trick to get that working real easy. Instead of calling it a polyline, call it a polygon. and that puts the final one in. So the difference between a polyline and a polygon is that the polygon is a closed geometric figure, and the polyline is not necessarily closed. Make sense? Awesome. So, let's talk about assignment 3, shall we?
Is it going to focus on like specific language or just stick to HTML?
It will be more JavaScript. All the rest of the assignments from now on are JavaScript.
Wait, weren't we just learning how to do this in HTML, not JavaScript?
Well, I mean,
Are the rules like
okay, fine. When you do the video game, you're gonna have to do some SVG and a little like. All of them require you to make a web page. The web page will require HTML, right? But the focus is on JavaScript, right? Most of the marks are coming from the JavaScript.
But do HTML, like for this, do HTML and JavaScript have like the same rules or are they different?
What do you mean it's the same
Or
rules?
is this vector stuff like do they operate the same or?
Yes. Yeah, the vector, yeah, that's kind of why we're teaching it, is like the SVG stuff, yes, the way that you interact with the SVG in JavaScript is the same as how you interact with regular HTML elements. All of the knowledge is transferable. So, let's take a look at assignment 3. Let's take a look at assignment 3. So, the general thrust of assignment 3, you will be working with and practicing events. You will practice using JavaScript to detect and respond to events in an HTML, CSS environment. You will practice writing software solutions to problems using JavaScript. Yes, all the web page has to be styled to some degree. I'm not expecting a masterpiece, but it has to meet certain minimum thresholds for not looking ugly. So, you will be submitting for this one HTML file, one CSS file, one JavaScript file, and at most one CSS file. It's kind of easier just to show you. There's a demo video that the guy who made this assignment put together. So, oh look, and he's got an ad. I wonder if he put that up on that. My goodness. Tell me when you're finished. There we go. So, as you're watching this video, he's also explaining what you're doing. But essentially, you've got a series of images, and you must have various types of events which do various things. Clicking on an image replaces it with another image and plays a little CSS animation. Clicking the randomize button randomizes the 3 images. There's a counter kept of how many times the image has been updated. And there's a countdown timer, which basically automatically calls the function which is linked to this button. When the timer reaches 0, it automatically changes. You can set what the timeout is. And that's the assignment, summarized. Does that make sense? Believe so? Question?
So these will be any images of our choice?
Any images of your choice, so long as they are safe for work, yes. Over many years of experience, okay, most of the time everything is fine. But every once in a while someone picks something and puts it in an assignment and I'm like, why did I have to look at that? You know? So, yes. So the images that you select, they should be like 3 distinguishable categories, right? So in this case, you can see we have like a star, a paw print, and a cat, right? Of various descriptions. Some of them are tigers. We have one type of cat, we have another type of cat, right? There is a requirement, often missed actually, that when the page loads initially, you have one image from each group displaying initially. So there are like rules about which image from which group you get to display, or you have to display, right? So, does that make sense? Any other questions? This one shouldn't take you too much time. This one is, so if you've been, if you've kind of been practicing and keeping up with the material, I don't expect this one to take you all weekend, right? Yeah. Any questions? Let me go through the document in a little more finer detail, make sure I didn't miss anything. So as always, please make sure you read the document to make sure you're meeting all of the requirements in the document. Another, another hot tip, the rubric is published. That's how it's being graded. Read the rubric and you'll know how it's being graded. All right? No surprises. Yes? For this one, please do test it on CS Unix and make sure your images actually load, right? If the images don't actually load, it's such an image-based thing, it's a major problem. The assignment document recommends that you store your images in a 2-dimensional array for ease of access. I think that's a good tip. Making the animation play can be a bit tricky, so you may use the following code to accomplish it. Make sure you change spin to the name of your CSS class that links to your animation. There you go. There is a requirement, a range requirement on the input that you can set the timer with. It needs to be between 500 and 10,000. It's a requirement that the countdown cycles through green, yellow, and red as it ticks down. And you have to count how many times the thing's changed. Notes: this assignment relies heavily on timers. Do not attempt to do everything in one timer. It is far simpler to have different timers controlling different functions, especially if they have different timeout values. Miscellaneous requirements. Bootstrap, if used, must be version 5. Use semantic elements wherever possible. Follow the style guides and validate your HTML. submission through the usual channels. Any questions? Okay. Well, in that case, yay. Good work, everybody. So let's have our break then. 15 minutes. Please be ready to resume class on or about 10:36 a.m. Thank you.